Hello and welcome to Talk of the Bay for today, Tuesday, March 3rd. I'm your host, George Cadman, and I'm co-hosting tonight's Talk of the Bay with Mei-Ling Obanata, who I'm excited to be doing this with for the very first time. Hello, Mei-Ling.
Hey, George. I'm excited too.
Thank you so much for putting the show together and doing all the legwork. I'm just here to speak and help ask some questions and stuff.
You rock, George. So it's my pleasure.
So tonight we're featuring a local documentary film, Hometown Homeless. It's making an impact at film festivals around the world. And Mei-Ling and I will be speaking with documentary filmmaker Malia Rose, a graduate of UC Santa Cruz, and Shannon Vodmaska, a poet who lives outside. The film features a circle of women who speak of life, love, and loss, holding space for one another amidst uncertainty and upheaval. This poetic and contemplative documentary takes us through quiet moments and everyday rituals, tracing a tender exploration of land, home, and community. This will be a call-in show, and at 5:30 I will open the phones to those listening who may want to call in and ask a question of either one of our guests. And if you've ever wondered what it's like to call Santa Cruz your hometown while being homeless, and you've never been homeless, then you will want to stay tuned to this show. So, Mei-Ling, I'm going to hand it over to you right now. I know you have some questions. You're raring to go.
Yeah.
So, wait, let's introduce our guests. That's a huge oversight. Hi, Malia. Would you like to say hi to our listeners?
Hello, everyone listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so happy to be here, and thank you to K-Squid for having us.
Of course. Thank you so much. And Mama Shannon?
Hi, I'm Mama Shannon, and thank you for being here. And she said all the rest of it.
So excited to have you both here.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. And I believe, Malia, that's your last name is Welsh.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, that's on me, actually, because I
Welsh?
wrote that.
It's okay. It's
Yes.
part
Got
of
it.
being a multidisciplinary artist. I have Rose for my dance, Welsh for my film, and here we
And
are.
Okay.
technically, I'm Shannon Vodmaska, but in the film, it's Mama Shannon because that's what I'm called in my community.
Okay. How would you like us to refer to you today?
I'm really not used to being called Shannon, so it might be a novelty for
Oh, okay.
somebody
All right.
to actually call me
has-
Shannon.
Okay.
Everybody has all these identities.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, so my first question is, how did you two meet? What's the meet cute story?
I was
We
going to
have a
say
meet
it's
cute.
because I carjacked her once, and she's like, and I had to respect creativity, but she remembers that better than me because it was more her observing my behavior than mine observing hers.
Yeah, that was our bit before we came in. The real story for how we met is I was doing some volunteer work down at the Benchlands, just me and my friend Eden. And I started spending a lot of time down there. For those who don't know, the Benchlands was a large encampment that was city sanctioned during COVID. And I met Mama Shannon because she was in charge of the food pantry there, and she was giving out food to her community. And I saw her on a hill giving some lady hell who had caused a ruckus, and I said, man, I never want to be on that lady's bad side. And I haven't been so far, fingers crossed.
Nice.
And the first thing I'm going to do is correct you.
Oh,
Because if we remember correctly, the thing I was arguing with that woman about was I didn't run the food pantry. I started the food pantry. Nobody put me in charge of a bunch of food. I cultivated relationships that brought the food there and then tried to distribute it to the best of my abilities. So that was the argument I was having at the time was, no, it's not like the city comes and brings me food and I hoard it and give it away to who I want to. It's that I cultivated relationships because I felt that in the place where there were so many people who had stoves in their own cooking facilities, that we shouldn't be dependent upon kitchens that wanted to cook what they wanted to cook when they wanted to cook it, that we should be able to make our own meals. So I cultivated some relationships and started that pantry, and that's exactly what I was arguing with that woman about.
so just for people who don't know where the Benchlands are, how would you describe, like,
It was-
where exactly
It
is
was
that?
the ditch by the river in San Lorenzo Park that they've now had closed down for years.
Yeah.
And I think one of the interesting incongruities
Incongruities.
of Santa Cruz is that there are many areas that were closed down for revegetation, and I do the quote marks when I say that, for 20 years or more, that when people camp there, the city would go in and clear cut. And that is one of those areas.
It's also a really interesting space because it's right beside the city building. So on the one hand, like we have this big community of tents, and then we have the huge kind of towering city building, county building. Sorry, thank you. And then we have the levee, so the river right there,
And the original hanging bridge
yeah, and
of Santa Cruz.
yeah, that camp was in place for a long time, and because it was city sanctioned, it kind of grew to a really big mass of tents, and a lot of people don't know, like there was this guy Kevin there who's passed away now, but he had goats there that he was taking care of.
Wow.
Yeah, and JP, who
met
ran
him.
one of the kitchens, JP, who's in our first film together,
Yeah.
which is when we met, which is on YouTube, promo, has a gentleman in it who ran one of the kitchens down there, who has also passed since then.
I have a question about the film Hometown Homeless. It's a documentary that you created, right?
Yeah.
And was that solely you with the women that you spoke with and filmed, or do you have other folks involved in the creation of the film?
A crew. I am blessed to be supported by a giant community of artists who I absolutely adore. But for this film in particular, my support was my cohort, who were really amazing because it was created while I was at SocDoc. We cried and sweated and slept together during the creations of our films. And then my partner, Elijah, who did the score of the film, along with my friend Nick Teo. My friend Josh did sound. I had people who were involved in the volunteer community who helped. So it was a very small crew. I was primarily doing the cinematography, the editing, a lot of the sound, pretty much every piece of it I did. And then I would pull in friends like my friend Dane, who's an incredible cinematographer, to help with like one shoot every once in a while.
Great score, by the way.
It was a very good score.
Yeah.
They did. Those boys did great. They did really good.
How can people see the documentary? Is it coming up at a film festival? I understand it's been nominated for some awards. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm so happy you asked. So the film will be playing at the Watsonville Film Festival on March 13th at 5 p.m. at the Cinelux Theater. We are really, really excited for this screening. It's going to be super amazing. A lot of people from my cohort also have films that are going to be playing. And it's part of a short segment, which the people at the Watsonville Film Festival have made free and open to the public because of the films that are part of it, which is incredible. Okay. And you can get tickets on the Watsonville Film Festival website. You still have to reserve your seat, but it's going to be really amazing, and we would love to see as many people there as possible.
And as your co-producer on this film, what is cohorts?
My cohort. So my cohort is this really amazing group of people who are all in the social documentation MFA program with me. They all
at
have
UC Santa Cruz.
At UC Santa Cruz, thank you. They all have films of their own that they labored over.
So you guys have your own little nickname.
We have our own little crew. We love each other a lot.
No, I'm feeling all left out and stuff.
No. It's just so interesting to think about worlds colliding and then meeting at the benchlands. Yeah, because if you're a Santa Cruz County resident, you're probably familiar with the government building and sort of the confluence of the river and so on. So
I wish you guys had seen the one on YouTube, because it really shows the start of the relationship between her and I.
I will watch it.
And it's 5 minutes of me talking about the progression of what I think home is from when I was a child to now, and how that view of home has changed over the years, and what the end result of my opinion on what home is. And she managed to put pictures to my words, and that's what sort of solidified the relationship between the two of us, was that there was a co-worker, a co-vision almost. It's hard to explain when two artists come together and are all of a sudden, it's like I'm thinking about people who write music and lyrics and then they sit down and write a song together. It's that sort of same chemistry that happened when she put these pictures to my words. It was like it was meant to be.
And speaking of vision, what was your vision, Malia, when you started out? And is the now final product kind of what you intended, or did it change along the way? And then it sounds like you had a co-vision with Mama Shannon. So how did that work?
Yeah, so I mean, it was an evolution, and the film went through a lot of different changes through the process of creating it. I always wanted to work on something with the unhoused community. I've had a lot of friends and family who've been on the streets growing up here in Santa Cruz. This is where I was born and raised. And I had this idea to make a film in collaboration with Mama Shannon after we'd first met in the Benchlands. It was kind of just ruminating in my mind while I was at SF State doing film there. I had no intention of going to graduate school. It was never something I wanted to do. But I had this project that I really wanted to work on. And so I decided to apply to the UCSC MFA program in order to have that project be supported and to do it in an incubator where I was surrounded by people who could help me kind of create it and mold it. And the film originally, like I really wanted to explore the idea of home. So what does home mean to you, and what does home mean when you no longer have four walls and a door to contain it in? That was kind of my thesis question that is something that stuck with me for a long time through growing up, because I've moved around a lot. So I never had like an identified home other than Santa Cruz, and of course with the people that I love. And so that was kind of like the seed birth of the project. And then through the process of, like, this is a highly collaborative documentary film. Mama Shannon and I worked on every single piece of it together, and we really influenced each other and the end product of the film, along with the women who are in the film, because they saw every single cut of the film along the way, because I would pass it on to Mama Shannon and she would bring it down and show it to people. And so through the process of many conversations that we had together and some arguments, which ended gracefully, as they do,
I don't remember arguments. I remember ultimatums and foot stomping.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's
I would
awesome.
say that it's, I'm listening to her talk, and it's just making me think about the whole process of it. And I think it's an amazing situation that happened between the two of us, because we were two women who were sort of on different paths and were looking for inspiration. And when we met, we just found our inspiration. Mm-hmm. You know, she achieved going back to school and the graduate program at UCSC, and I've been like prolific with my writing and my advocacy and standing up for things and feeling stronger about myself. And it was like we were just, you know, you say your soulmate or the person who makes you better, and sometimes it turns out to be a 24-year-old who is not someone you normally hang out with, or
now.
okay, or would, but who, when is around you, inspires you to be a better person. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point of collaborative relationships, is to be mutually beneficial. And if the benefit can be that you both get to grow and learn and become better people, then what an amazing relationship. You know, and I'm blessed that I got to meet her.
Can I ask, how have you become better? Are there certain qualities that... See, now I have to ask, because that's irresistible.
Well, I can say that Mama Shannon is a diehard believer in me, sometimes to the point of embarrassment on my part, because I can't fathom how I can be believed in and loved that much. But she has really supported me to... you know, like overcome a lot of imposter syndrome and believe in my art and my voice as a filmmaker and as a young woman in the world. So I think that's really amazing. And I'm going to get teary. So
Definitely cry. That's good radio.
We had a conversation outside, and I'll tell you, we had a conversation outside when we were prepping to come in here and giving each other a little, pep talk, which was, can we get through one of these without crying? And she's like, I'm hoping for that for us. I'm hoping that we can achieve the point that we can get, because not a single screening, not a single interview have we been able to get through. Because for both of us, this was like, I never understood the idea of somebody saying like my life's work. But when you do something that you realize was important as a voice, it doesn't ever make you stop feeling it. And these women that were in this film expressed things on this film and allowed things to become public that they had kept from their own communities. Domestic violence and some other things that they allowed to come out in this film, because they wanted to remind people that we were human and that we had rights and we deserved to be treated with respect. And at one point, she had done an edit, and we were doing it in a way where she would edit it, and I would look at it like 10 minutes later and go minute by minute and make my comments and send it back to her. And at one point, she hit an edit that I said, I'm not okay with this. That was the whole, I don't like the look of it. I don't like the feel of it. We've seen enough gritty, and I want people to understand why we group together like that isn't just all the ugly drugs and negative connotations, that there are these beautiful moments between some of us, just like any family or any community has. And we haven't seen that side of it. So in any situation, there has to be a counterbalance, right? There has to be some yin and yang. There used to be a show on PBS that was called Point Counterpoint, and the whole point was to show equal sides of both sides of an issue equally. And we haven't seen the beauty, the connection, the community, the camaraderie, how amazing the women are, how strong they are, how beautiful they are. We've seen all the ugly shit, and it was time for us to see some of the beautiful stuff.
I really like one of the things you say in the film, Mama Shannon, where you say the men help the men and the women help the men, but the chicks need to help the chicks. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
There is this thing that happens where in any community where you're sort of fighting an outside force and there's poverty, the stronger are going to be the survivors, the ones who come up. So there's always going to be a tendency for people to do favors for those who already have in any community, in any society. So we have to look at, you can't decide to help someone just because you like them or because they can do something for you down the road. You have to do what's right, regardless of how you feel about the person. So I decided that because I'm a woman and in the homeless community, we are probably the last group of people in the United States that it's absolutely okay to be prejudiced against and actually encouraged in supermarkets, in malls, in communities. We have to stand up for each other, whether we like each other or not, or survivors on a drowning ship of a shipwreck. And if we don't make sure that we have what we need, then who will? Because we've already lived that experience. It's not even a matter of, I did this because it makes my life easier. I did it because it's the only way we can survive. If we don't take care of each other, we die out there.
So we have a question on paper here. I'm going to go ahead and let folks know you're listening to Talk of the Bay here at 90.7 FM and 89.5 and 89.7 in Prunedale, and online at ksqd.org. Mei Ling Obanata and myself, George Cadman, are speaking with filmmaker Malia Welsh and Mama Shannon, a poet who lives outside, about the new documentary Hometown Homeless, which is going to be one of the films shown at the Watsonville Film Festival coming up on March 13th. And I believe that Malia said it's on at 5. And it's free, correct? I'm sure donations are accepted.
I think they're accepted, but yeah, it's free and open to the public, which is really amazing.
And so, anyway, we're getting close. Maybe 10 minutes, we'll open the phone lines up to listeners to call in and ask questions of one or both of our guests here. Mei Ling, did you want to jump in? I know you had a bunch of questions.
I have tons
prepared.
of questions.
Yeah.
I know we can't get to
you
all
jump
of them.
in here.
So, okay. So, what made you... Okay, so I actually had a question that I had not thought of before because of the conversation you were having here today. But how do you go from... So this is a question for Mama Shannon. How do you go from, like, just seeing someone who's like, hey, I want to make a movie about your community? Because did you think, oh, I want to have a were you walking around with the idea of like, yeah, this would be so great in a movie?
No,
that was probably never in your mind, right?
That's the huge misconception that people have about this film.
So how do you go from? Because honestly, most
She
people
wasn't walking around thinking about doing a film.
Oh,
it wasn't
okay.
that she was casting a homeless person in the role of a film. It was that as a volunteer, as a member of the Santa Cruz community, someone who had had friends and family and loved ones be homeless, she had reached out to the homeless community. She had gone to school to do film, and so was practicing, and then wanted to make this over a length of 6 years. We were having a conversation about just what I said earlier, about the fact that there have been so many films made about encampments, about the ugliness, about the prostitution and the drug use, that I would love for people to see the positive side of why we are in communities. And she said that that's exactly what I want to bring forth. The difference in our vision was that she was thinking about large public encampments, and I was thinking about those of us who live off-grid and out of the public eye in the woods. And most of us, weirdly enough, are women. There's a lot of women out there. And because in large encampments, it opens us up to more public criticism, more public prejudice, and actually opportunities for violence. If we're in the woods in smaller communities, we know our neighbors. We can protect our neighbors. And if anybody who's lived rurally knows, you know the sound of the birds after a minute. You know the sound of the woods. So if you have a few neighbors and you're out there, you know when somebody's out there that shouldn't be out there. Your neighbors.
It's a very intimate film.
Yeah,
so that's
was
one thing that struck me.
Most of the women in that film have mostly lived off grid, out of the sight of public.
Yeah.
It seemed like the women in the film were kind of living in their own little community and looking out for each other. Is that accurate?
It's pretty accurate.
Okay.
3 of the women, at the end, she does like a little clip of us sitting down talking. I'm sorry, I hit my mic. And I said, well, we brought you guys home because we had started down by Coral Street, the filming, and walked up the tracks.
Yeah.
Well, when we had got up the tracks and were done doing the group discussion and we were walking away and went down the hill from the clubhouse, we had reached 3 of the women in the film's camps. And so we had, for all intents and purposes, walked them home through the course of the filming of the documentary, because we had gone from being by Coral Street, where they had gone and taken showers and made phone calls and charged their phones and done things that they needed. And then she filmed them walking up the tracks to the memorial, and then they dispersed to their camps because we literally walked them home. And I lived in a place not far from that for 6 years off and on. That grandfather, the first poem in this documentary is about, and that amazingly enough was just done in the cemetery as we were talking about it. But when you live underneath a 2,800-year-old tree, you start to think about the fact that it's a sentient being and all the stuff that it has seen over its lifetime. And so it connects you to everything around you. And when you have neighbors in a group and you all know your area, I remember coming home at night in pitch blackness with cars driving by and people yelling. And the minute I would enter my path to my camp, I would feel safe. Like I was home.
Yeah, I do want to mention like I approached Mama Shannon in the intention of having this be something that we collaborated on together. So it was never me asking her to star in a film. It was asking to co-create. And then one of our, what came out of that was like the focus on the women, and then also wanting to show the contrast and safety and these different spaces between Coral Street and between these encampments that are in the woods. And that's something that's really unique to Santa Cruz, is that, we do have these encampment spaces that are in the woods that are with a lot of women. And then Coral Street is just this really kind of drastic contrast to a lot of that. But also, Coral Street does have its importance, and one of the difficulties right now is Housing Matters is taking away all of the daytime services on Coral, which is something that a lot of people don't know because it's not a public
Due
conversation.
to budget cuts? Or?
No,
Due
it
to
was
a
due to a
lot.
choice.
Oh.
And he made the choice that giving services to people who were not in transitional housing was putting a Band-Aid on a problem that was bleeding out.
Who's he?
The head of Housing Matters,
Okay.
Phil Kramer.
Yeah.
So he made this statement publicly. I'm not.
I understand the
saying-
police come through Coral Street periodically and they
once
clear
a week.
Yeah, on Thursdays or something,
Yeah,
and they clear
and-
everybody's tents. If they don't move them themselves, they take and confiscate and put in a trash compactor
When-
everybody's belongings. Is that right?
Yes, and when services end on March 31st, the whole purpose of Housing Matters will be as a transitional housing facility and will no longer provide services to anyone who isn't entered into their transitional housing facility.
Yeah, which is
So
devastating.
it is taking away, and MH can already shut. So
I know
I
MH
don't
Can
think,
losing that was really
I
horrible.
really
Could people
don't think
spell
Santa
out what
Cruz,
that acronym is?
mental health community action.
Network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to say board because of CAP, because of CAB, which was Community Action Board. So, but yeah, and the problem with that is that surgical units are fabulous. I'm really proud that Bill built all these great surgical units, and that would be apartment buildings that were built for the vets, and family shelter, and shelter for mentally diagnosed people, and shelters for people with drugs, substance abuse problems. The thing is that certain people fall through the cracks in those systems, especially women who are the survivors of domestic violence. Because the last thing that we want is to be told what to do by a bunch of men in
It
power.
can be also hard to trust people too, after
the
having been
last thing
beaten around so
we
much.
want to do is be told what to do by men in power. So
Because it's turned out so well this far.
yeah, because you can see
It's
how
turning
happy
out
it's
so
making.
well.
So actually, and I was thinking about this the other day. Statistically, the majority of women that I know in Santa Cruz that are falling through the cracks are women who are victims of domestic violence. And so we don't want to be told what to do and what time we can come in and how we can act and what we can wear and whether or not we can talk like that or by a bunch of men. We just went through that. And anybody who becomes homeless through a traumatic event. It's a series of events that leads you to the point where you're out there. But it's all comes from something, and it's not necessarily drug abuse or mental health issues. There are other things that become
Do you mind
factors.
talking about what led to your becoming houseless?
My last, because in the beginning I was houseless by choice for a long period of time because I traveled the United States and I vended, and I decided to live a life that was counterculture.
Like nomadic.
Yeah, and I vended, I made jewelry, I did gem and mineral shows, I had a motorhome, I raised my children. But when my kids decided they wanted to settle, I chose Santa Cruz. What caused my last issue of homelessness was a domestic violence event.
Sorry to hear that.
In which, after a year and a half of going to court, the judge ruled my children should have never been taken, and they didn't return them, they arrested me. So being told what to do by men in power is not something I'm really comfortable with. I try not to focus on this. I'm such a horrible
We have
person.
to be careful about that. We could actually get fined.
This is the problem. I live in an X-rated world.
No, I
and I'm on a
understand.
PG radio
Oh, I
station.
have a filthy mouth in real life,
So the
but I have
fact
to
that I'm
censor
only
myself
being
here.
R-rated at this point is really
Okay.
a step forward for me. But I will try to do better in the future.
Thank you, appreciate it, because we could get hit with a fine. That would be bad.
But the thing is that I'm looking around, and that is the issue. And so we didn't have a chance to discuss this, but one of the things that has come to me recently is that the women in this film, the women that are falling through the cracks, are mostly survivors of domestic violence. And that there needs to be a way in which we can integrate ourselves back into society, but be in charge and power of our own situation. So I've been enlisting the help of AI, as we were discussing.
Yeah, before the show, we were talking about
AI.
our relationships with our artificial intelligence.
And now I have 3 of them to do different tasks. And then when I lose my phone, I'm lost. And I'm a homeless person. And let me tell you, there was a time when I was traveling the country, I met a young man who was hitchhiking while talking on his cell phone. And I was like, that's so incongruent. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't fit the picture of like somebody hitchhiking. Is like, I'm on the phone with my daddy right now. But when I lose my phone, I don't know what I'm doing. But he's helped me come up with a feasible idea for a way to empower women in Santa Cruz in which they can re-enter the workforce, they can provide something to the community, they can make a profit, and they can get skills that make them employable and empower them.
By he, do you mean the AI or?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I refer
Okay,
to my AI.
you gave genders to the different AIs.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I do that. I'm alone a lot. So
I think a lot of people love their AIs.
I got to jump in for a short station break. This is Talk of the Bay. You're tuned to 90.7 FM, KSQD, 89.5 and 89.7 in Prunedale, and online at ksqd.org. My name is George Cadman, and also joining me in the studio is Mei-Ling Obanata. We're co-hosting today, and documentary filmmaker Malia Welsh,
You got it.
Welsh, and Mama Shannon, a poet who lives outside. The film we're talking about features a circle of women who speak of life, love, and loss, holding space for one another amidst uncertainty and upheaval. This poetic and contemplative documentary takes us through quiet moments and everyday rituals, tracing a tender exploration of land, home, and community. And as Malia mentioned, her partner did the score, Elijah, and it is amazing. And the poetry of Mama Shannon is, I have to say, I really enjoyed that a lot too. What were you going to say?
And my friend Nick T. It was a
dual collaboration.
Effort. Yeah, it was a collaborative effort.
Okay,
they did very
great.
well.
So I want to remind listeners that this film can be seen coming up at the Watsonville Film Festival on March 13th at 5 o'clock. And my understanding is it's free to attend that film festival. So, and is there a website people can look up for the Watsonville Film Festival? I mean, you can just type it into a browser, but if you happen to know it.
I do not know the website, but yeah, you can just look up the film festival. You can also see all their stuff on Instagram. I also have an Instagram for the film.
Okay,
you can
tell us
follow.
about that.
I created one recently, even though I hate social media, but it's hometown.homeless is the Instagram user.
Hometown.homeless.
And that's where I post, the updates of the film festival that's getting in, the screening, our interview here today.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that you posted that prior to the show and
I did.
clicked like. I want to let folks know you can call in now. We have about 27 minutes left in the show, 25 or so minutes left in the show today. And the number to call in if you have a question or comment about anything we've been talking about, or you want to ask Mama Shannon or Malia Welsh a question, 831-900-5773. That's 831-900-5773 to join the conversation. And Mei-Ling, I'd like it if you could jump in now, because I know you wrote so many questions, and I feel like I'm dominating, so I really want to give you an opportunity.
No, I love this.
Here.
This is like very organic.
It was dominating.
Someone's calling, but I'm going to throw in my question anyway. So, Mama Shannon, you were saying that you've become a better person by knowing Malia, and that it sounds like this has supercharged your creativity. Could you talk a little bit about what that looks like? Do you write stuff in journals? Like, what's your process?
So, okay, let's take into account that I'm still dealing with homelessness.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Journals become wet and the cops take them.
Right.
I mean, I'm just going to be completely
just be
honest
real.
with you.
That's
absolutely. Just soupy messes. And that would be why the dependency on the AI. Because it now says, because also thievery, loss, police takes bones, takes journals, takes everything over and over again. I honestly, at this moment, don't own anything that I've had for more than 3 weeks. That's not even a joke. I'm not even exaggerating. I literally don't own anything that I've had for more than 3 weeks. So everything I have trained my AI to remember everything. So when I get a new device, it literally says, "Hi, Shannon, this is a new device.
That's cool.
This is our last conversation." So I can now keep track of my writings, my plans, and everything without...
You're more tech savvy than me. We have a phone call. I'm going to hello, caller, you're on the air with my guests, Mama Shannon and Malia Welsh. Do you have a question or a comment?
I do, yeah. Great show. I'm really happy to be hearing about this, and I've seen the film, and
Thank you.
so well done and so beautiful. I was, when I was watching it, I was stricken by the way you create community together and live together with one another. There was one of the residents who was saying that that a different camp that she lived in had like a big community kitchen, and there was a whole community there. People watch your stuff if you go out for the day, to go to your job, to do, your thing, go wherever you need to go and do the things. I'm wondering how that works out, because this, the dynamics, group dynamics must be difficult, or are they difficult when you've got a group of people that are all so independent? They're don't want to live inside, or they don't want to be, of course, told by, a man in power what to do. How do you deal with it within the group? Are there people that are named to be, in charge of the kitchen for the week, or how do you do it?
I'm like chomping at the bit again.
Thank you for the question.
You have to understand that in any dynamic, there is flux and movement. So it would be just like if you were in a dormitory or in a situation where there were multiple people together in a group. Those people change. It's not always the same group of people. So sometimes the dynamic is really strong and super supportive, and the food is great and you're all getting along. But you do understand that everything changes and things are always in flux and movement. So that could change, and someone could come in that changes the dynamic, or the Rangers could come and move you away. So we learn to enjoy those moments where everything is in harmony and we're working together as a community. And those people who have lived together in that situation are shipwreck survivors. When we see each other, when we have something, we share. We don't even necessarily talk to one another or hang out with one another. We will offer each other a cigarette or ask them if they're hungry, if we have food and they don't, because we understand that the only reason that we're alive and continuing to walk forward is because of our community and the fact that we helped each other.
Thank you for your call. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I have one other, if it's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you said that in the film, too, how important it was to have community. We're like pack animals. We need that. Another thing I was wondering about that you had mentioned was there's the people within these communities are all living in them at the time for different reasons. And I'm wondering how many people you encounter that are waiting for transitional housing or just choose to live outdoors.
Good question. We'll let Mama Shannon answer that take your answer off air. Thank you so much for calling. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we have sort of a new statistic that just came out that 85% of the homeless people in Santa Cruz are local California residents, and most of them
Despite what some propaganda
and
is saying.
most of them are from the county of Santa Cruz. So a majority of us are hometown homeless. We are not transient. We are from here, or we raised our children here, because originally I was born and raised in Los Angeles, but I've been here since 1996, and my children were born, raised, and one of them died here. So this makes me a local by proxy. But we have to remember that it can happen to anybody at any time. And that's why I wanted to show what the beautiful parts of the community are. That doesn't happen without work. I mean, there's always someone in your family that makes the effort to get people together into a group, to make sure that there's a tea party or that there's a barbecue in the park. There always has to be one person who's that person who says, come on, let's be there for each other.
Is it possible to answer that question, though, the caller had regarding if you have a sense of how many folks are interested in transitional housing or how many roughly are just not interested in that and want to remain outside for whatever reasons they have?
So I'm going to say right now there's a combination of that left outside. I personally am slipping through cracks really badly, and things keep getting put off for my housing. There are a few people, and I am one of them. I mean, I would prefer to live on a sailboat. That's really what I want to do is I want a DIY sailboat that I can exhibit different skill set and live in a place where I know is safe and that is mine and where my dog can be.
Yeah.
And there could be a food bowl and a water bowl, and I want water to stop being my enemy, because out here water has been my enemy for so long that I would love for it to be beautiful again.
You have a feeling there'd be more folks that would accept transitional housing or want to move into housing if the rules weren't
Well,
so
the
strict.
problem is that
I remember seeing an article in the San Jose Mercury
super
News
categorized.
talking to homeless folks in San Jose about how they wouldn't accept transitional housing because they couldn't bring more than one dog. And one guy had 2 dogs that were his world, and there was no way he was going to leave one of the dogs.
That was one of my issues. Is I've had a companion who's canine for 12 years, and the expectation that you can give up the thing that has his name is Sparkplug, because the only thing that makes the motor go is the spark plug. And so sometimes the only thing that makes you go is your dog, and I have to give him up to be in a place for 90 days to get into a place that you might stop paying my rent in a year. There is nothing that's going to be 12 years long that this county has showed me so far that is worth giving up the companion.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also about community too, which is one of the things that I've seen with a lot of people who I know who are on the streets is when you get housed, like you get taken away from your community and your chosen family. And then a lot of the time, I have several friends who I know who've gotten off the streets, gotten housed, and then ended up back on the streets because they look out for their community and they let people stay over, and they give people a place to stay because they can't have their family just staying outside when they're somewhere safe. It's not fair.
Yeah, we do have 2 phone calls. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Talk of the Bay. Do you have a question or a comment?
Hi, this is Ray, and I was wondering if Mama Shannon would feel comfortable about giving us a little bit of her background before being homeless. I'm just wondering because, she sounds so clear and articulate, and, she was an entrepreneur who, supported herself touring the country, and, and I understand it was a, domestic violence issue that spawned her homelessness, but I'm just wondering a little bit, where did she grow up and how was she educated? And because she sounds very educated to me, and it seems like, kind of, hard for me to fathom how somebody with her clarity and, all that, can be
intelligence and education are not exclusive of dysfunction.
Let's see how Mama Shannon wants to answer that question. Okay, thanks for your call, Ray. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Education and intelligence are not exclusive of dysfunction. I'm sorry, your question kind of made me teary a little bit. As the poem in the middle of the film states, lost my mother to suicide at the age of 18. So I wasn't taught a whole lot of life skills. And when I got knocked off kilter, I didn't have a whole lot of support to stand back up straight. So every rocky road has become a huge pothole that has taken me a while to climb out of.
Well, Mama Shannon, you were also, you were an actress and a journalist.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is I went to school to Hollywood Professional School in Los Angeles when I was young, which is where every child who was on a TV show went to of my generation. So I went to school with all the kids from the Brady Bunch, and if there was a show on TV for X Generation, I was in school with one of those kids. And my mother paid a lot of money for that. However, my mother lived in counterculture. and was part of the legalized marijuana movement in the 80s and 90s. And therefore, we lived sort of counterculture. There was a conversation I had with her earlier in which one of my earliest memories of my mother was saying the reason we don't bring our friends home without your mommy's permission is their mommy can put your mommy in prison. Because my mom was growing medical marijuana and standing up for the medical marijuana community at that time. So I grew up with very clear lines of there was us and them. And I was sent to private school and educated and spent 21 years studying to be an actress or an investigative journalist, something in the industry. My uncle was the president of the Stuntman's Union for 36 years. And so the Los Angeles artist community, I grew up, my stepfather was Noah Shark, who produced Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, J.J. Cale, Leon Russell, Joe Cocker, Devo. So I grew up in music studios and clubs and artist communities in Los Angeles. It was what my life was. And when I hit the road, I learned how to be a human being, because in LA you learn how to be sort of not a human being. And so I needed to learn some humanity and compassion, and I learned that. And when I made the choice to become housed, I did that here in Santa Cruz. And unfortunately, due to a series of events led from a domestic violence incident, I lost my children in this county and haven't quite regained my kilter yet. And my youngest is only 13, so it hasn't been that long.
And he lives in the county still, right?
My youngest actually just got a full boat scholarship to college for being home educated. It's really amazing, but I have my own Doogie Howser. But one of my sons does still live here, and the other one is in the Air Force out of Santa Cruz.
We do have another caller, and hopefully they're still hanging out there. Hello, caller. You're on the air on Talk of the Bay. Do you have a question or a comment for one of our guests?
Yeah, hi. Hey, Malia and Shannon. It's Aiden. I'm tuning in from Pittsburgh. I just
Hey, Aiden.
Hey.
I just really wanted to say how proud of you both I am, and all the work that you guys have done, seeing how this film has progressed, and just thinking back about the bench films and everything like that. That was it. I just want to say I'm really proud of you guys, and keep on doing amazing work.
We love you, Aiden. Aiden
Thanks
was
for your call, Aiden.
part of the start of all of this. He was who I started going down to the benchlands with. He's an incredible photographer and one of my good friends. I miss him dearly. Thank you, Aiden.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Incredible inspiration to this with some of his pictures and thoughts.
I want to let other folks out there know that we only have about 8 minutes left in the show today. So if you want to call in, 831-900-5773, 831-900-5773, if you have a question or a comment, a question for either of our guests, Malia Welsh or Mama Shannon, about the documentary Hometown Homeless. And
I like the way you say that.
Say what?
I want to use that for our promos. Hometown homeless.
And then I see Mei Ling is on the mic, and I'm wondering if you have a...
I do.
You're chomping
So
your-
I'm just wondering, when you guys watch the film, does it make you think about how we see women in movies? Like, I know, so in the case of Mama Shannon, like you are you and you're in the film, but
I don't watch the film anymore. I watch the audience.
Yeah, me
okay.
too.
So yeah, whether you're watching the film or you're watching the audience, has this experience of making the film made you think about what it means to be a woman?
Absolutely. And I think about that every day, especially in a world where we have all these rights being all at the same time. I grew up in Hollywood and had dear friends who, I have a man who is recorded as being one of the first people to have died from HIV, from full-blown AIDS in Los Angeles. And he was such an amazing human being that it makes me tear up every time I think about the fact that that's his legacy. But I think that women need to get their own rights at some point. It seems to me that there's been a bend almost in the fact that we're so conscious of being politically correct that we forget that women still have rights. And I see it happen all the time in the homeless community, in which homeless women are treated in ways that they would never dare treat anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, the experience of women has been a really big part for both of us. And I think for me, I mean, my mom grew up in East Tennessee. It's a very different place out there. And she came here, and I, through the process of being her daughter, has watched this, incredibly strong woman who came from, a place where women were really pushed down and controlled. And so I think for me, like watching all of these women, not even in the film, but being around these women who are unhoused, who deal with stuff every single day that beats them down and tells them that they are not worthy of having a voice.
And I'm going to jump on you because I want to add one thing about
What?
this. It's really important to me, which is 3 days after this film showed at the Tannery in the Santa Cruz Film Festival, and we won an award for being the best film produced on the Central Coast. I was sitting in the Tannery on a bench reading a book, waiting for an appointment with someone we both know. And security came up to me and recognized me from being camped behind the tannery and called the police because he recognized me being a homeless woman, regardless of the fact that I was doing nothing. And that's the kind of thing that was the issue for me, that just being identified as a homeless woman allows prejudice. We don't even have to do anything wrong at this point. We just have to exist in someone else's space for it to be okay to have the police called on us. And that was the biggest thing for me to get across, was we are just trying to own our space, to exist in our world, and to conduct ourselves in our society.
Yeah, and these, like the women too, I mean,
taking
every
away
day.
our services and all of that is making it almost impossible for homeless women in Santa Cruz to hold any dignity in their space.
Yeah, and there's small acts of rebellion all through the film. Like just the women sitting together and laughing together and talking about, their feelings and their experiences, like amongst all of the chaos that is their lives. I think that's something that was really important to capture, are like those moments where people are together in spaces.
Like braiding hair. Doing
Yeah,
makeup,
just being girls,
talking
like
to each other.
being girls. And that's something that I think, is really lost when a lot of the public sees these unhoused women, is like they're not thought of as girls anymore, and that's what they are. They're girls and they love each other. And it's so much more complicated than that. Of course,
yes, we do argue, like you asked earlier.
Girls do. Girls
moments,
also argue.
and we have our prejudices, but we have never said no to one another when we really needed something.
And that's what girlfriends are for.
Yes, I'm mad at you. Here's a cigarette.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you right now, but of course you can have this.
You can borrow my mirror.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Now, there's a part in the film, speaking of that, where you talk about a woman that you met, Mama Shannon, when she was 16 and pregnant, and at first you didn't.
And
you
we're
say
not
you
talking
didn't
right
like
now.
her. You say you didn't like her in the film. You say I didn't like her,
And we're not talking right now.
but then you helped her.
Yeah, and right now we're not talking.
Okay.
But we are supportive of each other, and we have backed each other up in situations where people have come to us about information. She is now housed.
Good.
Actually, two of the women from that film are housed.
Okay.
One of the men that was in that film, one of the only two men that was in that film, has now passed away.
Oh.
Yeah. that one was
Someone
tough.
else who was in that film for just a moment has also passed away. So two people that were in the film have died, and two of them have become housed.
There was a part in the film where folks are around what appears to be an altar for
So
those who have done.
that's the memorial.
Can I jump
Memorial.
in? I'm going to jump in again. I've really been adamant about this, and we were having a problem with the memorial that I have not had a chance to speak to Malia about. People are destroying the memorial. The memorial is being sabotaged, and there is vandalism going on at the memorial. So what I would like to do is rally my community to donate supplies and skill. If there's anyone out there who has tile or granite or marble and would like to help us put up a permanent memorial with engraved names on it for the homeless of the community, for the homeless of the community, we would greatly appreciate that, because the one that we did out of love and perseverance is being continually destroyed.
Yeah, and the thing that was really important, why we showed the memorial in the film and made that decision, is like the loss that the community feels from losing community members to death on the streets is not something that's really thought about or talked about in the greater society.
Yeah.
You know, like we talk about, oh, this many people died of ODs, and oh, the problem about homelessness and this, that, other, but it's not talked about that the community itself feels the loss of members that die and that pass away. And also, you know, what happens to the bodies of unhoused people when they pass away. Like, it's a really, you know, it's a really layered topic. And also the fact that, you know, this community of people, that is a distinct sign of community, that they have built this place to honor the people that they've lost. And I think that's really important for us to understand, you know, in Santa Cruz specifically, that it is a community and that there is loss felt and there is care for each other there.
And we did it out of styrofoam and rocks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And
When
Sharpies.
MHCAN was still open, they had an entire wall for those who had been lost that the director at the time showed me, and she knew everyone's name, everyone's story. It was really powerful.
I knew most of them as well, yeah.
We only have a minute left, and I want to give each one of you an opportunity to Mama Shannon and Malia, and you too, Mei-Ling. Sorry that I...
No, there's so much going on.
We really only have about 1 minute, so I wanted to make sure people get, you know, how to see the film, you know, just anything we haven't touched on that you really want to make sure listeners get out of this program, and then direct them how they can see the film.
So thank you. The film right now is making its way through the film festival circuit, so it can be seen at the Watsonville Film Festival, as mentioned previously, on the 13th of this month at 5 p.m. Tickets online. It'll also be featured as part of a face-to-face with the filmmakers through the Burnell Heights Film Festival in San Francisco at the Burnell Heights Library. I believe that's March 30th. You can find that on the film's Instagram, hometown.homeless. And then eventually it will live on this really amazing platform online called Story TV. But one of the things that I want to make really clear about the film is it's meant to be a conversation starter. So if you have, you know, a scenario where you want to start a conversation about housing issues or women or whatever, please reach out to me and ask if you want to screen the film. It's available for screening. It's meant to be partnered with nonprofits and with people who are doing amazing things in the community as just a beginning, so that we can start talking about these issues, which is why the film doesn't present solutions, it presents questions.
How do people reach out to you again?
So you can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram. You can reach out to the film's Instagram account, hometown.homeless.
And there will be links from that one to the women if you want to specifically
Great.
That's the
help
best
any
way
of the
to-
women that are involved or find out about the issues that we're dealing with right now.
Great. Well, we are out of time, and I just want to thank both of you so much for joining us today on Talk of the Bay to talk about Hometown Homeless,
And
local
thank you.
documentary.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
having us.
Totally.
And thank you everyone for listening and being here.
Yes, thanks
And
to
then
all
you
our
asked why
listeners.
people think you're
And thanks
tall.
to the callers. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to 90.7 FM KSQD.